everyone. I hope you can hear me clearly. So, this is Ma'am Sam, and for today, we are going to learn or we're going to study the historical foundations of education. So, a lot of histories will be mentioned for today. So, you have to get your notebooks and be ready for our discussion. All right, so let's start with this question. If there were no schools, how do you think would society survive and progress? Would the society survive and progress? If I were if I will be the one to be asked, I think yes, there will still be progress and the society would still survive, but there will be slow progress. Why? Because there would be no professionals, 'di ba? Without schools, the society would lack a formal way to train professionals, doctors, engineers, and teachers. Therefore, the technology and the medicine, they might not advance quickly because there would be no organized system. The school is the structure, right? So there's no organized system for research and innovations and such. But people might survive day to day. They would learn still. But the long progress in civilization, I think it would be harder to achieve. Now, if there were no schools, how would they learn? I think just like the old times, we would still learn skills from elders, neighbors, by observing nature, by apprenticeship, right? Learning directly from the farmers. And the culture and tradition, I think it would be passed still orally, word of mouth, just like in our pre-colonial times. Okay, so ano po ba ang relationship between school and society? How are they related? We are already very much aware of the meaning or of what school is. But ano nga po ba si society? Society, it's not just a place. It is a group of people, right? A group of people who shares a same space, who interact with each other, people with common culture, 'di ba? A society is a shared space where there are social institutions, family, religion, and even politics, right? They share the same territory, they share the same cultural expectations. Ayan. So when we say that school and society are interdependent, what do we mean when we say interdependent? Meaning to say neither can exist meaningfully without the other. Okay, so neither can exist meaningfully without the other. School needs the society, and likewise, society needs school. So the society, what is its role? The society shapes the structure. The society shapes the aims, the content of the school. For example, if you are in an agrarian society, agriculture flourishes in that particular area, then the education may focus on farming, right? While if you are in a highly technological society, then your school will emphasize what? Farming ba? Hindi, because your society needs digital literacy. So yun yung mga ituturo nila, right? So the society, it shapes the structure and the content of school. On the other hand naman, the school the schools shape society by what? The schools help the society to transmit the skills, to transmit the knowledge, and even the values that will form the future citizens of that particular area, right? So you are reflecting, the schools are the one reflecting the culture, the values, the problems of even the problems of the society. And not just that, we should also illuminate possibilities, reforms, change, innovations. Ayan. So for example, in the Philippines, right? Why are our curriculums change? Why do curriculums change here in the Philippines? Simply because we are aiming to align our education with global standards, 'di ba? So, before the K to 12 program in the Philippines, it was very hard for the Filipinos to get a job outside the country because doon they're having K to 12 program. So, sinasabi nila na kulang tayo sa aral. Kasi yung sa atin, 'di ba? Ano lang naman, hanggang fourth year college and then after nun, hanggang fourth year high school and then after nun college ka na. So, kaya tayo nagka K to 12 so that we could be at par with the education system and the global standards. Yun. Just like how STEM, 'di ba? The strand STEM in education. What does it do? It responds to the society's demand for science and technology. So, ganun yun. So, when we talk about education today, classrooms, exams, online learning, it feels like it has always been this way. But really, the education, it has gone through such a long, long journey. Maraming journey yan and maraming version in every era, 'di ba? That shaped the education in a different way. So simulan natin, of course, sa world history, how education has been shaped or has been changed throughout time. Okay. So, hindi ko masyadong matatap lahat ng eras all over the world, but these are some significant um, points sa education reforms. Okay, so I'm just giving you a timeline here so that you can have a continuous understanding. But the details, I want you to listen. So let's start with ancient civilizations. So in ancient Greece muna, marami dito sa ancient civilization. Sa Greece muna tayo. So, di ba, I think you're familiar with Athens and Sparta. Ayan. So in Athens and Sparta, the education, early on, we already see two paths. The Athens, they build citizens with words, while Sparta, they build soldiers with swords. So in Athens, the boys are studying music, poetry, philosophy. Kung meron man silang physical education, gymnastics yun. Kasi ang aim nila to be well-rounded citizens. 'Di ba? So usually they learn with their private tutors. Kaya andyan kung kilala nyo, si Aristotle, 'di ba? Si Aristotle, he established his own school, the Lyceum. He is the tutor of Alexander the Great. Si Plato, na naging teacher ni Aristotle, si Plato who founded the academy, 'di ba? Ayan, sila yung some of the private tutors or the tutors back then. So, it was not standardized. The ancient Greek education, it was not standardized. So it varied between city states, just unlike what we have now, 'di ba? Standardized yan, DepEd. Kung anong ginagawa ng isa, dapat ganun din, no? So doon, back then, walang ganon. So ayan. So they aim to create well-rounded citizens through a balance, but more of intellectual than physical training. Ayan. But wealthy older boys only studied rhetoric. Ano yung rhetoric? Yung persuasive speaking, 'di ba? Mahilig sila sa mga ganyan. Sa philosophy, yan. Si Socrates, si Plato, si Aristotle. Yan. But when you go to Sparta, it's a whole different story. Here, the education wasn't about ideas or art, just like in Athens. So it was about survival. The boys left home at age 7 and they train in barracks run by their state. So they focus on military drills, physical endurance, discipline. 'Di ba sa sa Athens, ang kanilang physical education, gymnastics, dito talagang military drills because their goal is to produce elite warriors. Ayan. So that's how education was in ancient Greece. Now let's move to the east, to Mesopotamia or the modern day Iraq. Ayan. So, in Mesopotamia, the primary aim of education was to train scribes. Ano po ba yung mga scribes? Scribes are, um, actually, they are a ticket to power. Hindi lang sila government worker, no? Yung mga scribes, I don't know, yung mga record keepers. So, in societies where literacy was rare, scribes, they held a very, very privileged position. Powerful sila noon. So they are the record keepers. Anong role nila? To document everything, financial transactions, yung mga tax ng mga tao, yung historical events, religious rituals, ayan. Tapos saan nila sinusulat yun? Sa yung tablet, clay tablet, 'di ba? Kaya nauso yung noon yung cuneiform writing. I don't know if you're familiar, yung mga wedge shape, hindi sila letters eh. Mga drawings sila. You just search in Google. Ayan, cuneiform writing. So yun yun. So kapag daw ikaw ay naging scribe, mataas daw ang respeto sa ng mga tao. Hindi ka pagagawin ng hard physical labor. Farmers, soldiers, hindi. Scribes, they often work for courts, temples, wealthy families, ayan. And high in demand yung kanilang trabaho back then. Pero the training to become a scribe was very, very long and often reserved for boys from elite families. So back then, di ba, the women, they are deprived sa privilege of studying, of education. So they attend in special schools, yan, para matuto kang maging scribe. Ay, para ikaw ay maging scribe. So, gaano ka-importante itong mga to? So they spent 10 years just to learn everything. Kasi yun nga, marami silang ginagawa, no? Record keeper, sa court, sa markets din, yung mga tax. They memorized laws. They practiced copying religious texts. Ayan. So, sila din yung mga dahilan kung bakit marami tayong alam about the history. Kasi nag-survive yung knowledge because they carefully copied the text, no? So they were the instruments in preserving the history, the cultural heritage of their place. Ayan. So yun po ang education sa Mesopotamia. They educate elite men to be scribes. Sa again ulit tayo, sa ancient Greece, they educate the elite men sa Athens with private tutors to be well-rounded citizens, mga eloquent people, ayan, magagaling sa rhetoric, sa philosophy, ayan, sa music. Sa Sparta naman, sa Greece yun parehas ha. Ang Greece, dalawa ang types ng education. Kung ikaw ay nasa Athens, edi ayun nga, philosophy, music, grammar, rhetoric. Pag ikaw naman ay nasa Sparta, di ikaw ay um, nagtitrain para maging warrior, para maging militar. Yan. Sa Mesopotamia naman, ang education system doon, kung gusto mong mag-aral, ibig sabihin, gusto mo maging scribe. Ayan. So, sa China naman tayo. So, the education in ancient China, it was a tool for um, moral aspect. Ayan, moral aspect of life. So, the education was shaped by Confucianism. So, ano po ba si Confucianism? So, these are set of rules of how people should act. It's not merely a religion, but a way of life na tuturuan ka how to respect your elders, how to have good behavior, 'di ba? Yan. So showing kindness. So those are the heart of learning back then. So the boys, they study books. They memorize books related to Confucianism, of course. They memorize passages word per word, and their ultimate dream was not to be a scribe sa Mesopotamian. Their ultimate dream was to pass the civil service exam. So early on, meron na tayong civil service exam. Bakit? Pag ikaw ay nakapasa ng civil service exam, ikaw ay magiging scholar bureaucrat. Bureaucrat. So, scholar bureaucrat. So, para siya kung titignan mo yung government workers sa Imperial China kasi run by emperors, no? But nung panahon na yun, hindi lang sila government workers. They are with much higher position or with much higher social standing. So itong mga government workers na to ay hindi lang sila intellectual kundi sila ay mataas din ang kanilang moralidad. O, 'di ba? Sana hanggang ngayon. So, a scholar bureaucrat's position, it's not just a job. It was considered the highest and most honorable profession kasi nga sila ay naka-align kay Confucianism. 'Di ba? So they were seen as the moral and intellectual elite of their society. So, marami yan. Dapat, yung civil examination, ano lang yun, they should pass a series of difficult exams, all based sa Confucian philosophy. So, para daw ma-ensure, kaya ganun, maraming exam. Para daw ma-ensure na hindi lang matatalino yung magli-lead or yung magiging bureaucrats, but also with right moral values to lead the people. So, anong aim ng education nila? So, the main idea during the ancient China is that if everyone is kind, respectful, and does their duty, the society will be peaceful and stable. So, yung aim ng education nila to cultivate moral and educated scholar bureaucrats their for the imperial China. Ayan. Using Confucianism. Okay? Most likely, puro memorization sila noon. Memorization and examination. Yan, nangyayari na yan dati. Okay, meron pa ba? Sa ancient civilization pa rin tayo ha. Sa Europe naman tayo. Punta tayo sa Europe. Medieval Europe. Ayan. Actually, bago maging medieval Europe, meron din tayong Spain. Kung merong ancient Greece, meron ding not Spain, ancient Rome. But the Romans, they just borrowed from the Greeks, but they added more structure. So the early education, yes, it still happened at home, but wealthier families, they were sent the boys through, ito naman, mas may structure, di ba? Sa ancient Greece, depende sa lugar kung ano yung ituturo. Dito, they go through stages. First one, they study reading and arithmetic, and then after that, they study literature and Greek, and then finally, after that, they study public speaking or the rhetor. Ayan. So the goal is also to prepare young men for public service. So the girls, they were educated at home. Ayan. So ayun po ang ancient civilization. Next, medieval Europe. So after the Rome fell, because the Rome reigned during the ancient period, ancient civilization. So fast forward to that, after the Rome fell, the Europe, they went into chaos. Nagkaroon ng mga invasions, yung mga feudal lords, ayan. The education nearly vanished, except sa monasteries and mga cathedrals. So the monks, they were the one who kept the knowledge, 'di ba? They hand copied manuscripts in Latin. The learning was really deeply religious back then. Hymns, prayers, scriptures. So, but at that time, during the medieval Europe, the Europe was not yet divided to the countries that we know today. So, puro sila kingdoms, empires, feudal territories, ayan. Na nag-change, of course, depende sa kung anong nangyayari. So the education was largely religious, with Latin as the medium there. I don't know if you're familiar with Saint Thomas Aquinas. Ayan. Si Thomas Aquinas, those siya at ang iba pa niyang mga kasama, they tried to reconcile faith and reason. They argued na ang Christian teachings could be explained logically. They tried to unite, 'di ba? The students there, pinag-aaralan nila yun nga, religion, and they tried to unite faith and reason, faith and logic daw. Ayan. So they engage more on they are being taught theology, law, medicine, mga ganyan. And in here also, in medieval Europe, the first universities were built or were established. Are you familiar with Oxford University? Ayan. So, yung Oxford University, dito yan nabuo sa era na to, sa medieval Europe. One of the first universities in the world, Oxford University. Meron din sa Paris. Ayan. Okay? So, again, yung education sa medieval Europe, yung centers, hindi schools, no? Mga monasteries, mga cathedrals, mga ganyan. Ang focus nila ay religious. So the priests and the monks in that time are the main teachers and students as well. So they copy manuscripts so that it would be preserved, but in Latin. Ayan. Also, in medieval Europe, the first universities were established. Yeah. So major step forward yan. So punta tayo sa Renaissance. So sa Renaissance naman, ano pag sinabi nating Renaissance? Rebirth. It literally means rebirth. Why? The people here rediscovered the knowledge and they added more. So they rediscovered the Greek and Roman knowledge, but then they celebrated more of the human potential. Ayan. Ano to? Era of discovery, age of exploration. Kung tawagin nga nila. No? So, humanism, yan, dito yan nag-rise. Humanism emphasized the study of literature, sa arts and sciences. Of course, highlighting yung human potential, just like what I'm saying earlier. So, dito na na-cultivate yung creativity, yung critical thinking. Nandito na sila Leonardo da Vinci, sina Erasmus. Si Erasmus, the first editor of the New Testament, di ba? He has his Greek and Latin translation for the New Testament. Yan. Dito yan sa era na yan. So they studied grammar, rhetoric, poetry, history, arts and sciences. And again, humanism was the heart of the Renaissance education. So gusto nila makabuo ng virtuous and eloquent citizens. Complete gentleman, kung tawagin. Okay? So, yun ang pinaka-important change dito sa era na to, humanity. Ayan. So, sa language naman, Latin and Greek. Kailangan nilang matuto ng Latin and Greek para makabasa sila ng classical texts. Sa physical education, dahil nga ito ay age of exploration, ay hindi lang gymnastics, so meron ding fencing, riding, archery, they become a key part of education. And sila ay isang parte, parang isa silang linya or isa silang line sa bucket list para ikaw ay tawaging complete gentleman. Sa arts and sciences, 'di ba? Ayan, natuto rin ng astronomy, music, pero hindi sobrang advanced, just like what we're having right now, of course. Basta, they have been more inquisitive in this era, innovative and inquisitive in this era. So, ayun. And also, so here's the connection. Dahil 'di ba kanina sabi ko, this is the age of exploration. So the Renaissance was a period in the European history, siguro from 14th century hanggang sa, ayan. So nasakop niya yung 15th century. Sa 15, yung mga 1550 na yan, anong meron sa Pilipinas? Dito tayo nasimulang sakupin. So, the age of exploration, kasi nga, na-unfold yung Renaissance na yan sa Europe, no? So, the Spain, they began exploring the world, which led to the colonization of the Philippines. So, yes, our history was touched by Renaissance ideas too. So, dito nangyari yan. Okay, next one. Nation building era. Enlightenment and nation building era. So after 17th century or after 16th century, siguro mga 17th century yan. So enlightenment and nation building, ano yan ha, pakisulat na lang din. Nation building or enlightenment era. Isa lang yon. So the enlightenment era, it brought a wave of new thinking. Andito na si John Locke. Ayan. Si John Locke na nagsasabi that children are blank slates. The mind of children are blank slates, and the information that we know are built through nurturing and not through genetics. Ayan. So this era, it perceived education as essential for forming citizens in progressing or progressive nation states. Ayan. So, pinupush nila dito yung public education. So, they foster nationalism, democracy, the civic responsibility, di ba? Responsibilidad mo bilang isang citizen. So, pinopromote mostly yan patriotism. So, dito, since pag pinagsama-sama natin yan, dito na nabuo yung katagang education as a right of all citizens. So, panibagong, bakit siya nation building era or bakit siya enlightenment? It was a new way of thinking based on reason, science, and individual rights that were, which itong mga concepts na ito, existing na naman dati, no, before this era. Pero new way, new perception ito. So itong nation building era or enlightenment, it is a result of the discoveries and yung inquisitiveness nung panahon ng Renaissance. So since they are very inquisitive, very innovative, so the thinkers, yung mga tao, they began to question yung mga old ideas about government, even about religion. So they believed that humans could use these concepts existing already in the previous era to improve the world. So that is nation building era. So nag-emerge ang mga nation. So the government, they realized schools could create loyal citizens, mga patriots. So the education here was no longer just for life, kasi nga it began to be seen as a right for all citizens. Therefore, the education here is now more accommodating. So ayan, dito na si John Locke. Tandaan niyo yan ha, yung mga points, key points. Next, sa Industrial Revolution naman po tayo. Sa Industrial Revolution, syempre, na ano na, because of nation building era, the city starts to boom, the train starts to move, the factory starts to function. The society needed a new kind of worker. Kailangan nila ng hindi lang matalino, kailangan nila ng isang punctual, ng isang obedient, at isang disiplinadong worker. Therefore, the schools, they began to mirror factories here. So, nagkaroon na ng structure. Nagkakaroon na ng structure. Meron na mga bells, meron na mga schedules, may mga routines na, may mga group lessons na. So the education here, it became compulsory. Kailangan siya. And mass-based. So yung curriculum nila, ganun pa din. Reading, writing, arithmetic, enough para ikaw ay makagalaw at makasunod sa mga utos sa isang factory, no? So there's also not just that, syempre tuturo din yung values, no? How to follow rules, respect the authority, stick to a routine. So this was the birth of actually dito siguro galing yung public schooling, yung mass public schooling as we recognize it today. Kasi sabi compulsory eh, 'di ba? And mass-based, kailangan matuto ang lahat. Ayan. So that is Industrial Revolution. So, yun ang dahilan. So next, 20th century. Ayan. Nasaan tayo ngayon? 21st century. So sa 20th century, there are two big themes. Universal education and progressivism. Kung sa Enlightenment or nation-building era, nandoon na si John Locke. Dito sa 20th century, nandito na si John Dewey. So, progressive educators. 'Di ba? Learning by doing, problem solving, democratic classrooms where students have the right to share their thoughts, to express their ideas. So, schools here became not just centers of knowledge, naging laboratory then laboratories of life, 'di ba? Kasi learning by doing it, they let the students explore. And not just for them to pass, but to prepare the students for active citizenship because that's what progressivism is after all. So sa 21st century naman, ayan, nandito na tayo. Here we are in the 21st century. The world here is global, digital, very, very diverse. So the education now is not just merely about memorizing. After memorizing, exam, hindi na ganun, no? It's about how you adapt, how you employ or apply critical thinking, yung lifelong learning, no? At dito we value more of the inclusivity, how we accommodate every diverse set of people. Global citizenship. Ayan. So, ganun. Ganun na, no? Ganun na nangyari. So, from clay tablets, from um, to digital tablets na meron tayo ngayon. So, the education, as you can see, it has always been reflective to what the society needs the most. 'Di ba, no Industrial Revolution, maraming nabuong factory. O, anong ginawa ng school? Nag-train sila, 'di ba? Binuo nila ang structure ng isang school. Nagkaroon ng schedule, tinuruan ng routines, so ganun. So that's why that is what it means when we say school and society are interconnected with each other or interdependent with each other. So that is the timeline. Sa world history, papaano nag-change ang education system. Okay, next one. Let us have, ayan. So let us be specific naman and let us focus on the education in key periods here in the Philippines. So I'm sure you have had Philippine history already bago kayo makatungtong ng college. But then, ayan, ang focus natin dito, paano nag-change ang education during those different eras and periods sa ating bansa. Okay, so let's start with this one. So before the Spaniards came, the education already existed, but it wasn't the kind of education that we think of today. Very informal siya. Walang classrooms, walang chalkboards, walang teachers with lesson plans. Anong meron? The community itself was the school. Sino ang mga teachers? The parents, the elders, the local leaders. Ayan. So the children, they learned through immersion. They immerse their child by listening, observing, and doing. So they learn farming by observing, 'di ba? Ini-immerse nila doon um sa mga fields para matuto sila. So, farming, fishing, weaving, pottery, house building. So, these are the skills that they need to survive. So, they also learn values, of course, respect for leaders, love for community, cooperation. Meron din yan silang sariling history, may sarili silang myths, di ba? And the tradition, they were passed down through word of mouth. Storytelling, di ba? Marami tayong mga legend. Ang alamat, di ba? Mga epics, mga chants, ayan. So, the history or the values, the history, they were preserved by that. Word of mouth lang. 'Di ba? Oral tradition lang. Imitation lang para sila ay matuto. Oral tradition, word of mouth para maipasa ang mga kaalaman. So, in this period, what is the goal of education? It was very, very simple. For survival and for you to be integrated into the tribe. So the skills, the values, the culture that were handed down from generation to generation, even without a formal school, that is something. Yan. So again, ano ang goal ng education sa pre-colonial period? Integrations of individuals to tribe. Basic needs for survival. 'Di ba? Ano yung mga tinuturo? Customs and traditions. 'Di ba? Ano yung method of teaching nila? Oral immersion or oral teaching or immersion. Ini-immerse sila. So, very community-based. Walang educational system. Kung anong kailangan ng society. Kailangan ng society ng mga gagawa or ng mga farmers, ng mga fisherman, ng mga mananahi, 'di ba? Na mga gumagawa ng bahay. So, yun ang tinuturo nila sa bata. So, what is the proof of cultural values there? Ano yung cultural values that is still alive up until today? Respect for elders, communal cooperation, bayanihan, 'di ba? And the skills that were passed on as survival values. Farming, weaving, yan. Next. Tapos, ayun na nga, yung 1565. 'Di ba? The Spaniards arrived, and with them, the friars, yung mga pare, who became our teachers. Education suddenly had a new goal, to spread Christianity. So the Spanish used the schools as tools for religious conversions and colonial control. So yung mga pare, sila yung mga pangunahing guro ng mga panahong na yon. So nagturo sila ng reading, writing, para saan? Mainly to understand the catechism, yung sa religion nga, para ma-absorb yung religion, no? But the education there was very, very exclusive at first to Spaniards only and to wealthy people, yung mga tinatawag natin na ilustrados. Ayan. Buti na lang, nagkaroon ng Educational Decree 1863, Educational Decree. Ano naman yon? It mandated to liberalize access to education. So, nagkaroon ng establishment of separate schools para sa babae at para sa lalaki in every town. So, nagkaroon ng greater educational opportunities, hindi lang para sa mga lalaki, kundi para sa mga babae. Pero, yung curriculum noon, of course, magkaiba pa rin, no? Yung curriculum ng para sa babae, it was still tailored to traditional gender roles. Yung subjects nila, sewing, needlework, basic academics lang, and religious instruction, ganun lang. So, pero at least, 'di ba, nagkaroon ng liberalization, nagkaroon ng mas malawak na access sa education yung mga bata. Okay? So for the first time, in that time, more Filipinos, including women, had access to formal schooling. But let's not forget, the curriculum was still controlled by the church, mga pare. So, the University of Santo Tomas was the only university back then, and women weren't even allowed in professional courses like law and medicine until much later. Kasi meron akong mga nabasa sa history na yung mga sobrang yayaman daw ng mga panahon na yun ay they are because they were unable to pursue these degrees locally, medicine, law, there were some na pinadala yung mga anak nilang babae sa Europe para mag-study. Ayan. So, ganun ang nangyari. So, ano yung method ng teaching doon? Catechism, corporal punishment. Grabe ang corporal punishment nung panahon na iyon, which is bawal na ngayon, 'di ba? Walang grade level noon. Walang grade level noon. And the characteristic of the school, it is very church-based, mga parochial schools, and wala pang structured na educational system. So again, at first, the education is exclusive only for illustrators or wealthy people, not until the 1863 Educational Decree na nag-provide ng establishment of at least one primary school for boys and girls sa kada barrio or in every town. So, yung education dito, it was really tied sa religion, obedience, and loyalty sa mga pare at sa Espanya. The discipline here was very, very strict. Ayan. So, kaya nila tinuruan ng mga Pinoy, again, they planted the seeds of literacy na sa tingin nila ay magbo-bloom later on. They would be able to reap what they sow. Yan. So, yan po ang type of education na meron sa Spanish period. Next, sa American period naman. So, the Americans, ayan, dito tayo nagkaroon ng isang public school system. So, fast forward, the Americans took over. Their approach to education was very different. So, they wanted to prepare Filipinos for democracy and eventual independence. So yung goal nila to spread democracy and literacy. So they focused here on academic English language and literature. So in Act number 74, says 1901 yan, 1901 yan. So in Act number 74, they established a centralized public school system. Anong meron dito? The education was now a free and they taught in English. So at first, the American soldiers, they were the one nagturo. And then later on, dumating ang mga Thomasites. Ayan. So there are around 600 American teachers na nag-shape sa Philippine education. So sila yung nag-establish, they founded the schools, yung Philippine Normal School, or yung, if I'm not mistaken, the PNU, Philippine Normal School, or let's see, just a moment. Ayun, tama nga. So, Philippine Normal School, now the Philippine Normal University. Ayan. So, it was established in 1901. So, marami nangyari noong 1901. So, they want to train Filipino teachers. But here's the interesting side. So, the Americans, they wanted Filipinos to adopt their values, their language, and their world view. So, gusto nila, kaya sila nagtayo ng school para ma-align yung Filipinos sa American interests. 'Di ba? So, yun yun. So, yun yung naging way nila. So, English has become the medium of instruction. So, by the democratic method, democracy, 'di ba? Both the leaders and the normal people, they have the right to say what they want to say. So, the American colonial government meant a policy for preparing Filipinos for self-governance, 'di ba? And eventual independence. Yung Tidings McDuffie, ayun. 'Di ba may ganun? So, ayan, ganun ang nangyari sa American period. So, what is their goal? Democracy and literacy. They focus on English civic education. The teachers, well, first were first soldiers, but then again, Thomasites arrived. And the important key point here ay yung establishment ng um, Act number 74, which centralized public school system. And they also founded schools like Philippine Normal School to train Filipino teachers. Okay. So, ayan. So, but yung itong building or founding schools to train Filipino teachers, kasi nga gusto nila eh, 'di ba? They wanted to teach Filipinos how to run their own government. Kaya sila nagkaroon ng ganon. But the motives, of course, merong hidden agenda dyan. So, hindi lang yan basta-basta altruism, altruism. Hindi lang yan selfless act, hindi yan dahil kabaitan. Meron din silang motives, hidden motives. Yan. Gusto nila na mai-align nga yung mga Pilipino sa culture nila, sa interest nila. Kasi nakita nila na maganda yung Pilipinas, may potential yung Pilipinas, 'di ba? Yung sa madaming likas na yaman and maganda yung lugar. So, the Philippines location was an asset dun sa bandang Pasipiko kasi nga tayo ay nasa isang archipelago, tama? So maganda yung strategy nila. Meron silang strategy doon. So parang sinisecure yung American influence. So in simple terms, while the Americans publicly claimed they were there, yun lagi nila sinasabi, di ba? We are here to help you Filipinos. They also had, of course, they have their reasons. Kaya gusto nilang i-control yung bansa natin. And they use the democratic method. Para syempre, oh, sige, hindi na kayo, di ba kasi sa Spaniards, wala tayong boses, sila lang na sila dapat masunod kayo sa amin. Ginawa nilang democratic method. So, they wanted to achieve both goals. In the narrative of altruism or selfless acts, while pailalim tayong kinokontrol para maging align yung vision natin sa interest nila para maging open tayo sa American trade and culture. So, yun yung nangyari doon. At marami pang ibang nangyari sa history, but our focus here is yung education, okay? Education. So again, the goal of education here, so civic education, English, ayan, ang medium of language. And ang nagturo sa atin ay mga Thomasites. O bago pa dumating ang Thomasites, ang mga soldiers. So, ano ang characteristic ng schools yan? Formal na. We have our formal school. We have had our formal school. Meron ng structure, 'di ba? Meron ng educational system. Ayan. At nagkaroon ng centralized public school system. Okay po. Next. So, sa Commonwealth naman. So, nagkaroon ng ano yan, ng transition, di ba? Sa Tidings McDuffie, yung Independence Act, tapos sobrang habang taon yung ginawa yung Constitution. Katulong ni Manuel L. Quezon, di ba? Si Manuel L. Quezon, he was elected as the first president sa Commonwealth. Ang vice president niya, si Sergio Osmeña. So, after yan, ng drafting ng 1935 Constitution. So, ganun yun. So, after yon ng Tidings-McDuffie Act, as far as I know. So, ganun yun. So, punta tayo sa Commonwealth. So, di parang damang-dama na nga natin kasi meron na tayong constitution, no? Meron na tayong constitution, ang presidente natin Pilipino na, ang vice president natin Pilipino na din. So, actually the Commonwealth was intended as parang ano lang, dress rehearsal for full independence na nakaschedule na i-grant, 'di ba, noong July 4, kung ako ay tama. So, yung education dito sa Commonwealth, the focus is nationalism. Kasi for the first time, di ba, tayo na ang magpapatakbo ng ating bansa. So, the focus here is nationalism, moral discipline, vocational efficiency. So, yun talaga, nationalism. So, meron tayong Commonwealth Act of 5, Commonwealth Act number 586. So, nire-organize yan yung elementary education, yung mga required textbooks, pinalitan yan lahat nakasulat in Filipino. Yung mga pinapagamit na textbooks sa paaralan ay ang language ay Filipino. So the schools we emphasize here, love for country, moral discipline, yan. Usually nation building, 'di ba? So nation building talaga. So, ano yung mga key points dito? Dito sa Commonwealth Act number 586 in 1935, yung elementary education ay na-reduce to 6 years. Yung from 7-year elementary level to 6-year. And then, dito rin na-introduce yung double single session. So, alam niyo po ba yung double single session? Dahil tayo ay may mga classroom shortages, 'di ba? Meron na dito nagsimula yon yung morning shift, afternoon shift. Pero nung panahon na yon, kasi ngayon yung morning shift tsaka afternoon shift. Usually, sa panahon ngayon, magkaiba na yung teacher sa umaga at sa hapon. Pero back then, same classroom, may morning shift, may afternoon shift, same pa rin ang teachers. So the schools taught here love for country. So they prepare the youth not just for a work or a job, but for independence. Nagde-dress rehearsal na nga kung tawagin, no? So, yun po yung proof of cultural value na na-preserve natin. National identity, love for country, and Filipino authors were allowed to write textbooks. So, yan ang nangyari noong Commonwealth. So, yun din, to promote nationalism din yun. And less dependence doon sa mga foreign authored books. Kaya, ang textbooks, lahat ay nakasulat in Filipino. So, ayan. And then, tayo ay napunta na sa Japanese occupation. So, di ba the Japan, they promoted the slogan, Asia for Asians. So, the schools there, they taught Nihongo. Tapos, in-emphasize talaga nila yung vocational skills. Bakit? Tinuruan nila tayo ng love for labor, love for labor. Hanggang ngayon naman, ang mga Hapon, na-preserve nila yung ganyang cultural value, no? Love for labor talaga. Talagang masisipag silang magtrabaho. So, ayan. So, dito yung ano, yung kaya sinasabi diyan na Asia for Asians. I don't know if you're familiar with Greater East Asia, yung ano, Asia Co-Prosperity Sphere. Yun yun. So, that was the justification of Japan para mag-expand. Kaya sila ay nananakop, no? So, gusto nila magkaroon ng unified bloc ng Asian nations na free na doon sa mga imperialismo ng doon sa West. So, gusto nila ang Japan. Siyempre, sila ay natural leader. So, nung nasakop nila tayo, gusto nila na ang language ay Nihongo, pero hindi naman, kasi naturuan na tayo mag-English, tama. Tapos nung dumating ang tapos ng Commonwealth, ang mga textbooks ay Tagalog, Filipino. Tapos ngayon namang Hapon, kaya tayo siguro sobrang talino eh. Sa panahon ng Hapon, Nihongo was taught as a compulsory subject to replace English kasi gusto nga nila Asia for Asians, di ba? So, Tagalog and Philippine history was also promoted still, pero Japanese language yung fino-focus nila. Kaya lang, hindi naman tayo, wala naman masyadong Pilipino ngayon na gumamit ng Nihongo kasi nga, sasaglit naman tayong nasakop ng mga Hapon. Tama. So, dito rin masalimuot din ang nangyari sa Pilipinas. Pero hindi na natin yun masyadong i-focus dahil ang focus natin dito ay kung ano nangyari sa education nung panahon na iyon. Okay. So, yung in-emphasize nila dito ay love for labor, vocational skills, di ba? Nagturo sila, yung curriculum nila, they're more focused on agriculture, technical skills, para, syempre hindi para sa atin, no? Para sa kanila yon, para matulungan natin sila in times of war and sa kanilang ekonomiya. So, ayan. So, yung love for labor na yan, they taught the Filipinos to work diligently, disiplina. So, yung physical education nila more on military drills, na-required na din, na-required na yung military drills. Ayan. So, pinalitan nila yung Japanese education in the Philippines back then. So, it was a control. tool, instrument. It has been an instrument para makontrol nila. And it was designed para ma-replace yung Western values na meron tayo at mapalitan ng values na meron ang mga Asians, particularly yung Japan. Ayan. So, yung education dito, as ano din, as additional knowledge, the education has become an instrument for propaganda. Ano yung propaganda? It is an information, 'di ba? With biased or misleading nature para makapag-promote lang ng isang point of view. Hindi siya tulad ng pinopromote ng journalism ngayon na dapat equal. So, ayan na. So, ang propaganda, it is something, information that is something that's biased to promote a cause, ganyan. Point of view, ganyan. Okay? So, sino ba ang presidente natin? The Second Philippine Republic, si Jose P. Laurel, 'di ba, sa Japanese occupation. Yung Japanese sponsored Philippine Republic, yung puppet state, our puppet state. Yan. Dito nangyari yan, mga yan. So again, Japanese occupation, kanina World War II, the Japan occupied the Philippines, Asia for Asians, but that's just a new propaganda. Nagturo sila ng Nihongo, they promoted love for labor, they emphasized vocational skills, manual work, na aligned sa Japan's wartime economy. Gusto nila maging loyal ang mga bata sa Japanese emperor. So gusto nilang ma-erase yung Western values na in-instill sa atin ng mga Amerikano. So, it was less about learning, but more of control na naman. Na-control na naman tayo. Ayan. And then, after Japanese occupation, nagkaroon tayo ng Third Republic. So, ayan. Sa Third Republic na tayo. So, sa Third Republic, rebuilding na yan after war. So, we're trying to restore the educational system here. So, the Republic Act of 896, di ba doon sa Commonwealth, ni-reduce natin from grade 7, ginawang grade 6, tapos nagkaroon ng double shift, di ba? Dito naman, no Third Republic, nagkaroon ng restoration ng grade 7 and they abolished already the double single sessions. So, the education here was seen as the way to rise from the devastation that we have had experienced during wartime. So, in the context of this era, so civic rights were the fundamental rights and freedoms guaranteed to Filipino citizens na in-outline noong panahon ng common, yung 1935 Constitution. Ayan. So, the independence was restored after the war. Ang mga Pinoy talagang nakipaglaban sila, 'di ba, noong panahon at hindi na yung alam ko ha, as far as I can remember, paano natalo 'yun? Kasi sila ay um ang naging technique nila, hindi sila sabay-sabay, no? Parang pinupuksa nila bawat nation. Ayun. So, nag-start sila sa mga ganon. Hanggang sa tuloy-tuloy. Naging hindi sila, okay, magplano tayo isang bagsakang revolusyon. Hindi. Alam ko ang ginawa nila nun, consistent, sila, konti-konti, 'di ba? Place by place, one at a time. Pero, consistent nilang ginagawa yun. Papasabog sila ng mga trailways, mga ganyan.